Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to From the Tabletop, the TTRPG broadcast from the League of Extraordinarily OK Gamers. I'm the Wraith, your host and GM, and I am so excited you're here and tuning in for another session of The Dawns Our Voyage Holds. Today, we have a very special event because we get to hang out with Redline 13.
Hello.
Redline is back from a bit of a hiatus, which means that we get to take uh, remove the N from NPC for Iridia and bring her back into the game, which is great and very excited. To reintroduce Iridia, let's quick go through. If you can give me a kind of brief description of what Iridia's deal is, what she looks like. Just so we can get a picture of her in our heads, and then we'll go through a couple things before we get started.
What if I refuse to do so?
I mean, then we can just shut the stream down and just be done, and call it a night,
Yeah.
and I'll go play some
Yes.
video games.
Iridia is high class. I mean, I feel like that's the best word to describe her. But she's also got another side to her that is filled with a lot of uh, anxiety and um, depression, I would say. A lot of it's caused by the upbringing that she had, but then it's compounded by the fact that her profession, which is jewelry making and gilding, requires her to use active mercury, and that has essentially poisoned her. And so she's constantly been struggling with these issues because her brain is deteriorating over time from using these. She is, I don't know what the age equivalency is in Tandara, but she's roughly like 37-ish,
Okay.
and but she's proper. She's very distinguished. She can be, she can be in a dress and dress finely. But when the time comes to work, um, she will don a leather apron like anybody else and pour her time and her capacity into being a smith, but really a jewelry smith. And that has allowed her to be in the company of, some of the wealthier people across all of Tandara. And one of the biggest things that um, she did is she got into a contract with a man by the name of Zelosh, and I cannot remember where he was from.
I think he was either Galdarian or Solarian.
Yeah. Um, and so Zelosh, who is a very shrewd businessman with questionable ethics, was essentially her handler for many, many years. And because Narans are not really known for their ability to be merchants, and they don't regard merchants in high esteem as they do those who create things. She, Iridia didn't really have any interest in being or being in that kind of
That
profession, I
merchant
guess.
capacity, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. She didn't really have those tools, but what she did have is the ability to talk to people who she was selling to. And a lot of times it was royalty, and so she gets to hang out with them. She gets to, live amongst them. Um, and she's made, not really like great friendships, more like, great acquaintances that know her, let her stay there. Really not because they necessarily, have became like good friends with Iridia. She's never had time to establish that. But because they, because of her renown
Yeah,
and,
sort of prestige thing.
yeah, her prestige thing. So, even having her in the court of these people, it makes other lords and ladies,
Pay attention. Yeah.
yeah, pay attention
Yep.
and be jealous, and that's what it's like, and when you're always trying to one up somebody else in court. Um, yeah. So, towards the beginning of where our adventure takes off, Iridia decides that she's tired of that life. She's tired of, but she knows that Zelos won't let her go because he's made her rich, or she's made him rich, rather. And so she tries to stow herself on board the ship. What was the name of it?
That was the Dawnlight Sojourn, I believe.
Yeah. So she stows upon the Dawnlight Sojourn, and thinks she's in the clear, and it isn't until she's out to sea that she realizes that Zelos is on board already. And he's got the upper hand, and essentially it's, without really saying it, he tells her that she can't go anywhere, or you know things will get dirty, essentially, and that I'm still in her, in his company. And so, Rydia starts to plan with a few people that she meets on board. One in particular would be Mathos, who she's not necessarily fond of, but she needs, his ability to get out of Dodge. Essentially, she finds out that he's somewhat of a smuggler, and that's the perfect person for her now. She needs somebody to smuggle her off the ship. Mathos goes off, and I think becomes friends with the most direst of enemies of the Naran, um, and which could have complicated things, but we ended up getting transported to Alardan, and the rest is, as they say, I don't know, really not history, I suppose, in the future and history. Here we are now, the present, I suppose.
Here we are. Yeah, great. So, let's see. So, going over your character sheet here real quick. So we have your look listed as knowing eyes, fancy hair, finery, and thin body. And being a Narin, you've got that bright red hair. Um, and then, so let's go through your alignment and your bonds real quick. So let's start with your alignment. You can go ahead and
Yeah.
read that off.
Yeah. So, she's neutral. She likes to avoid conflict and diffuse tense situations, which she's pretty good at. She's good at being. She's learned by hanging out in the crowds that she's hung out with how to deal with people who are ill-tempered, and so she knows how to diffuse things. And that's what she plan. What she spends her time, doing if conflict arises.
Yeah, good. Great. So let's go quickly through your bonds here. I'm mostly just looking at the ones that we have the character ones. And then you've got Zahida down at the bottom there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Would
I'm gonna
you?
start with the Zahida,
Okay, great.
actually.
Would you read those through?
Yeah, so Zahida and I have been through a lot together in a very short amount of time. She's the closest person I have to a friend at this very moment, and I think that still is probably the case.
Hmm.
Mostly because I really think that Zahida probably takes pity on Iridia in some fashion, because this is, you know as a warrior, Zahida can be anywhere. Really, her talent and her skill, they go really well here. This place is very tumultuous at this point, and the skills of Iridia are definitely not combat, and so, um, Zahida being one of the best warriors Iridia's ever seen, I think she looks up to Zahida, and Zahida probably is kind of like a just kind of sees Iridia as like someone who needs protecting, and
Yeah,
that's all that Iridia is looking for right now.
there was, even though Zahida's a good, a little bit young or a decent bit younger. There was like this really interesting kind of almost like big sister vibe. I felt that it was that she was giving you. Um, that
Right.
was neat. There's a couple moments in there. Good. All right, moving on.
Yeah. So Brack. I feel like some of this stuff could probably be updated with
Yeah,
Brack, and
and
maybe.
that's totally fine. We should go ahead and do that.
Yeah. So originally I had, was a Balteshi criminal, and I do not trust him. I think trust is something that you can only afford when the circumstances are right. And in this circumstance, I think that Iridia has to trust Brack. They're in
mm,
this together. There's really no reason not to trust him. Just because when traumatic events like these things happen, it builds camaraderie. And so
sure.
I think it was, um, while while a Bal- while a Balteshi, I think Iridia trusts his judgment and his cool-headed demeanor.
Yeah, cool, cool, cool.
Okay, so I don't know. Do you want me to expand on that at all?
That's I think that's I mean they're sort of having this slight time where where Iridia has been an NPC for a bit. I think I'm okay with leaving these a little on the bear side and then letting them develop a little more as we get back into some more direct contact and um, you know
All right.
whatnot.
Okay. So Mathos now, um, like once again, trust is something that you can only afford when circumstances are, in your favor, and well, and on the um, oh, what was it, the Sojourn, the ship
Hmm.
that we originally came in. You know, she had to place her trust into Mathos, and he didn't really have a chance to, um, really prove himself at that moment, but he's proven himself time and time again as being somebody who, while really is kind of a seedy individual, has been, you know has been, I guess, at least stagnant, but she's not really convinced that he's this great pilot, although I think that can probably have changed, right? I mean, he had to have
Yeah.
spent some time in the last like month or so. So how long has it been since the last time that I was involved? Probably not that
Um.
long, to be honest, right?
No, I think it's been. Man, I am so bad at keeping track of all this timeline, especially having split all these people up. It's been uh probably in the area of weeks, I think. But yeah, not. I think not quite as long as you might think.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean, so we've had canonically in terms of what's happened, in terms of what Iridia has done as an NPC. Um, there were some interactions with Mathos and Iridia, with Mathos trying to keep you curbed off of the alcohol that you had been having problems with when you first started out, and there was a moment coming back from one of the missions where Iridia had made this kind of nice leather bandolier thing for his smoke bombs, and saying that she would be interested in trying to help to sort of make those and try and do what she could to improve them, being the tinkerer that she is. So there's been that kind of warming, I guess, in that relationship in particular. Um, so and even just sort of seeing the way that I think Mathis has kind of stepped into his role as captain on the ship. I mean, he's already recruited a couple of the people um, coming in. So,
You
I
know,
mean, you can
it,
sort of think what Iridia will there, but that's kind of the gist of what's been going on.
yeah. So I think her opinion of both Mathos and Brack, is that they're less than desirable individuals. They've
Hmm.
left, they've lived their life in kind of a world that Iridia can't even imagine. She grew
Sure.
up in relative wealth, compared to them,
Hmm.
and
And
even
then
though
spend a bunch of time at the universities and
yes, exactly, and then came back and opened up a very profitable business, and that she left behind. And so I think um, she looks at Mathos as being, a rough around the edges, undesirable individual, but somebody that she can call her friend, really due to the circumstances, but it's a friend either way,
hmm,
which she's really never had any.
yeah,
And that's the thing that I think, she doesn't, she's really kind of understanding that in a world that you create in your own space, you can alienate people if you want, or isolate yourself. But when you're thrown into, the blender with all the rest of these people, you have to, like, friends become assets more than you could ever realize. And I think that's what she's realizing now in her life, is that um, she knew it already. She was already ready to leave because she knew that the people that she met were fake. That they didn't care. Neither did Zelosh. And so, no one really, besides her father, who died relatively young, really ever cared about her. And so I think she just needed that without knowing that she needed it. And
yeah,
so
yeah,
she's realizing right now that whether or not she would like these people, she likes them anyways, and she can't really help it, even though she doesn't want to. And
yeah.
Mathos is like the perfect example of that.
Sure, sure. Um, especially because Mathis is from Galdaria, and I can't remember where Zelish was from exactly,
I think he's the
but
opposite then.
if he was Solaren, both of them are still going to look very similar because they're
Yeah.
two very similar looking nations. So on the surface, at least, I think there's a lot of similarity in the likeness between the two of them.
Ooh.
So it's interesting to see Iridia getting past that sort of surface.
I
With
think
that.
something that she's going to need to work through is the fact that Mathos wants her to create these things for her, or for him, which
Ah,
is going to really give her the feeling of Zelosh,
yeah,
that this dependent upon my skill kind of thing, and what
sure.
that brings with it. And so I think that may be something that she'll need to work out at some point.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to touch on there. I would definitely try and drop that in the bond somehow as well. That there's maybe some kind of wariness there. The other question I have is, do you think this sort of feeling that I'm getting from what you're saying is this kind of opening up a little bit of her, um, sort of personality wise and relationship wise, do you think any of that is due to the fact that, like we were saying sort of off mic earlier, that she's kind of getting away from that, sort of some of the alcohol stuff, and as well as that mercury poisoning, that she's less exposed to that, and there's probably at least some measure of improvement there. Is that something that's affecting uh, this at all?
Uh, yeah, I think this is what, essentially, um, it's taken her a lot longer to process than the rest of these individuals.
Mm,
And so I think she's been cooped up inside of her workshop for the last, at least a couple weeks, right?
right.
Um, and so I think now she's worked through these things herself, and she's ready to, like, process everything else that's going on.
Sure. Yeah.
She needed to, like, essentially have some sort of outlet, and by doing so, she creates um, this construct,
Hmm.
and we can go into that if you want next.
Yes, I would. We still need to touch on Fawit here, real
Oh,
quick.
okay, yeah. Um, the interactions with Fawit, I think even now, Iridia is terrified of Fawit.
I think that's completely reasonable.
Yeah. And so, really, I mean, from her past, she's never really dealt with anybody like Fawit, but Fawit embodies every Naran, boogeyman tale that you could ever think. And so, growing up, the only people that she could really like, a tribute to this would be like the strong men that Zelosh would keep by his side. These, like mercenaries that would come and go, and they're always tough and rude and terrible. But Fawid isn't like that. Fawid is much worse. Much more terrifying. Fawid is sly, and she is cold and calculating. And those people were barbaric and and idiots. And so she attributes Fawid is much like Zelosh to her, but with the means and the ability to carry out any terrible wish Zelosh would ever have, right?
Yeah, sure.
Like, you know, Iridia is even sure, like, Zelosh is old, not terribly old, but like later 50s, early 60s at the very least. Like, he's not fast, he's overweight. Like Iridia is not like necessarily physically terrified of Zelosh,
Right,
maybe a
right.
little bit, but she's definitely terrified that he will outthink her. And Fawit, on the other hand, is she's just a mixture of every
Of
strongman that
both of
she's ever
those.
seen,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Zelosh himself. So yeah, so I think she's just she wants to keep her distance from Fawit, at least for now. And um yeah,
Cool.
I think that's really about it.
Yeah. So I would, if you get a chance to sort of think over those and jot some things in there as you are able to do so, that would be great. Okay, so speaking of this construct, um, what have you been up to?
Yeah.
Says Iridia's spent most of her time on the ship while other people have been sort of out gallivanting about, getting into trouble. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry.
So Iridia, when she doesn't feel like she's herself, her first instinct is to just lock herself up in a room, um, and commit herself to either studying or tinkering. And she did both. She both studied, and she, from some of the books that they were able to salvage, from Third Shoulder, right? That's the
Hmm.
city that kind of. So she was able to salvage some of the books that were brought on board when they fled Third Shoulder, as well as some of the observations that she's made, and just other books that she's been able to try to come upon. And even if there's not a library, there's probably bound to be some books around, and whatever she's found so far on the ship.
Hmm.
And so, one of the things that she found is that she came across, what they're called mist monkeys.
Missed monkeys,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, and essentially they are armless monkeys that carry around this strange mist. And so it sparked an idea inside of inside of Rydia, and it was more or less like, you know, she's been having terrible time trying to collect her items, and they're constantly on the move. And so she knows that she doesn't know anybody well enough to ask, for their assistance. And so she decides that she just wants to take care of this on her own. And so she spends a lot of time researching how to use, animancy with the thing that she already knows. And she realizes that to get the thing that she wants done, um, she creates this kind of clockwork, um, armless monkey, uh, and she names it Bottle. And so with this armless monkey, if anybody's ever seen the Clash of the Titans, there's a creature named Bobo or Bubo, and Bubo is like a clockwork owl, and it's very similar to that in its features. But it, that would not, she realizes that there is a limit to this clockwork ability, and so she essentially uses animancy to take vials of mercury and puts them kind of in a housing in the back of this monkey, um, and uses this mercury essentially will you know pump its way out of these vials, and using animancy and working with the blacksmith. I can't remember what the blacksmith's name is.
Nylarenthi is the blacksmith,
Yeah,
the
and so
Barbalish, yeah.
Nyla Renthi kind of helps her to kind of create these kind of pseudopod-like arms that kind of grow out of these flasks, and they are like they're used to help her. And with those pseudopod-like arms, hold on just a second.
While Joe's away, I will use this opportunity to throw a quick description here of the laboratory and this workshop that they. So after um, Zahida and Fawit and Mathos had gotten back from their mission from Third Shoulder, they were able to collect the things, and Deliberus from Third Shoulder were able to help them sort of finally get this workshop all put together. Um, so yeah, so this laboratory, this workshop area that they've set up here down in the foundation section, so in this big section of rock, kind of mountainous area of the ship, is where they've found the suitable room that they're using as this workshop that they've gotten set up. So with the expertise of Endeliberus, the area is superbly laid out for optimal workflow and makes use of existing duct systems to safely and effectively vent and exhaust. Um, so you're drawing on the expertise of Endeliberus here, and he's sort of like, after his many years, he's quite on for age, especially for a Barblish. Um, and has been a craftsman for so many years. He really knows how this stuff, goes in a workshop, and so he's able to sort of lay all this stuff out very efficiently, and to getting that great workflow. So the area is basically a long rectangular space with rows of supporting columns etched with beautiful patterns running the length and rising to the high vaulted ceiling. Enormous and incredible murals cover the walls. A few rooms, alcoves, and enclosures split off from the main space, along with a handful of open balconies and lofted sections spanning between the outer wall and the columns in some areas. Iridia has claimed one of the rooms with a connected loft area at the back of the hall for her own personal work and experimentation. It's currently outfitted with basic tools and a small handful of craftspeople, nowhere even close to capacity, and these crafters are more or less kind of unofficially ish headed by Nylarenthi. She's kind of taken up the mantle of uh, the kind of chief craftsman here, while Iridia is in the back tinkering with her things. As you know, and as we've been saying, she's been kind of holed up back there for quite a while, working on uh, this construct here. Um, I have all this fun uh, description of all these rooms and things as we're discovering them of this ship. Maybe I'll have to put this up somewhere. Just so we have, I can put this in the world anvil probably. Just to have all this out. Some of this will get updated as we go. Obviously as we discover new things, and as we uh, as we hopefully gain more crew, as we as things progress. I really love the idea of this being a living space, and that we get to see how parts of this vessel are affected by the people that are on it, and by the way that the way that people are using it. Currently there's so much of this ship that the party hasn't had the time or the energy or the resources to go and explore, and so there's so much of that is so mysterious still, especially down in Foundation. Um, where I think in part of my description up here, do do do. Um, Yeah, so the enormous prow of the ship seems itself to be made of rock and earth as if it were hewn from the side of some time lost mountain. Within this section, which is being referred to as Foundation, a network of caves and warrens weaves a labyrinth of rooms and chambers that one might swear occasionally shifts and rearranges, making it seemingly impossible to chart. Especially now, as it's there's tons of sections of it that are partially caved in, and this very strange kind of stratification of uh, this kind of pristine nature with this super decayed thing that's some kind of weird product of the cartographer's magic. Um, that is making it very hard to navigate down there. Um, and one of the things that I think is I'll take the time here to point out. So there's this big hangar area down at the bottom in the back of the ship, which is obviously the most easily accessible spot, um, as as the um, uh, as it's landed on the ground here in Newater Nest. It's very easy um, to to get into that area. So that's kind of the main sort of onboard area. And uh, so the sort of merchant core that we've established here, most of them are kind of set up in this hangar area. There's no ships in there right now. They had taken some time to clean and kind of clear it out of all the debris and derelict ships that were in there, sort of small vessels. So there's most of the crafting people. Or the not sorry, not the crafting people, the merchant people have kind of set up their stalls, and so this is this open area to the people in Newater Nest that they've set up to peddle their wares and so and such. Um, uh, yes. So you are back. Hello.
Bonjour.
Welcome. Going on with your description of the of Bottle, the construct mist monkey.
Yeah, so I think we kind of touched on it. Essentially, it's got these pseudopod-like arms that are able to grab things out of my backpack, out of my pockets, out of satchels. Because when we're moving, Iridia is, I mean, she's carrying as much as she possibly can,
Mm,
and she's always stumbling through scrolls and books and whatnot, trying to like hold them on, as well as wearing like these kind of spectacles that allow her to like zoom in and out of things that she's by her own design that she's created. um, and so the Bottle is there to really like help her, and it is because animancy's been used on there. One thing she's noticed is that it's not necessarily sentient, but it's pretty darn close.
hmm
It has its own personality, essentially.
Aha. Okay.
And
Have
go ahead.
you discovered much of that personality yet?
No, not really.
Okay.
I think it's more or less inquisitive at this point.
Okay.
Um, and it'll often, instead of just standing, um, like perfectly still, and it would have no other reason not to do that. Iridia's begin to like catch Bottle like looking around, and although it hasn't actually discharged its like mercury appendages, um, but it's like it like moves over to objects and like inspects it closer.
Yeah.
Um, so
um. So these these arms, are they able to sort of like form into other shapes or other
yeah, any shape that you could think of. I mean,
great. Cool.
although
And
I think most of that is probably it's probably got to be trained.
Oh,
and
okay.
like Iridia's got to like put like bottle down and like adjust things inside and whatnot to kind of get it to do better, like
Okay.
about grabbing stuff or grabbing stuff a certain way, which I think is like essentially, it can grab anything out of her pouch, but sometimes like if Iridia were to ask Bottle like take one flask and put it inside the other, it'd be a goddamn mess.
Great. So you're playing at Garrus here and doing constant calibrations. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
um, great. What was the other question? Oh, what? Just for visualization's sake, what kind of metals are you imagining this thing made out of in terms of like color or?
I'm so I would say probably whatever is the most abundant, and
Okay.
easiest to work with. It's probably like like an amalgamation of like multiple metals, um, depending on what the gears are. So I don't know if copper and tin and stuff are
Hmm.
probably the easy. Usually those are like tin, like has like a really really low like melt point, so
Okay.
it's really easy to work with. And so I would say it's probably made of bronze. Copper and tin tend to be, I think, more abundant than like iron and much easier to work with.
Okay.
And it's really not there to, take beatings and stuff. So I think she
So
uses
it's a
things that
little
are
more
like
delicate. Yeah.
a little bit more delicate so that she can finely tune stuff and make things like make changes a lot easier.
Cool.
And so probably bronze, I would say, would be the best. So it's got that kind of like brownish color to it.
Very nice. Um, Excellent. Okay, so you have taken all this time to build this construct. You finish it one day, and I would assume that you're probably pretty proud of it. You sort of spend the day kind of playing around with it, tinkering around with it, doing those calibrations, maybe showing it off to some people, scaring them.
Right.
uh, Getting some weird looks, that sort of thing. Um, and then the next day comes, and you wake up in the morning, and I'm not telling you how your character feels, but I kind of get the sense that there is some amount of okay, what do I do now?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the first thing she wakes up is that she probably falls asleep with like a book on her chest or, like with her head down on her desk or something like that. She wakes up and like grabs like a glass of water, or maybe wine. Actually, I think she's really trying not to drink, so probably not wine. She probably goes for like an empty wine pitcher, like it's just her habit,
mm,
and then like realizes that it's empty and puts it down, and then grabs like the water pitcher and like pours herself a glass, um, and downs it, and then kind of like just stands there looking at herself in whatever mirrors in the room.
yeah. And what do you see in the mirror?
Her hair is definitely unkempt. Um, she's still wearing the apron that she had on yesterday, her leather apron.
Uh huh.
And so she, in fact, the first thing she does is like almost gets embarrassed, like of herself. She gets embarrassed that she's still wearing an apron, and she takes it off and like folds it, ever so neatly. But when she goes to put it down, she realizes the whole room's a wreck, and like this is like a little tiny amount of you know like organization that this just doesn't it seems ridiculous compared to the rest of the room. So she just kind of like feels defeated and puts it down on the desk, and then just kind of sits down in the chair and like across the room looking at this large mirror, and just kind of sees herself. I would assume that she's probably been wearing the same clothes for a couple days,
Mm.
and she's just like shit, like I need to take care of myself. And I think she probably, I don't know if there's a bath in her room or like adjacent to her room, but that's probably the next place she's headed.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a fine thing to say that there's a bath in there. Um, uh, so and that yeah, that seems like a very Naren instinct to clean yourself. Um, they tend to be very uh particular about their state of hygiene and such. Um,
Right.
so um, what do you think? What do you think this day kind of looks like in broad strokes? Then after that,
I think she, she like the first thing she does, she's like just kind of walks around the ship, um, and you know, like the first thing she does, she just starts heading towards the blacksmith, and she's like, "No, I can't. Like, I can't go there today. This is all I've been doing." She probably leaves her backpack behind, even with Bottle. He's just probably hanging out in the room, or maybe he's in the in the shop. But she just kind of like goes out and goes out on the deck of the ship, like looking out into, um, what I would assume is probably a pretty beautiful view way up there in the sky.
oh yeah,
Wind is
absolutely.
rushing, and she's probably been like hanging out with like the stale air of her room and the blacksmith
Mm.
shop, and so for the first time she like walks out and like realizes, man, I needed this.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, depending upon which way you're looking, here, we'll jump over to the water nest map here. Um, so the ship is kind of parked out to this off to the side of the city, but depending upon which way you're looking, I mean, you from up this high, I'm not exactly sure. I don't have necessarily a number in my head, but I'm imagining this ship as probably somewhere in the area of like 15 stories high or something, like 10, 15. Um, so yeah, pretty high off the ground, higher than probably any point in the city here. Um, and you can see uh, the shape, I think, of the Toberon of Tojeth from up here. It's just covered in this blanket of all these colored pine trees, and you can probably uh, see the hints of the sort of ruins of Third Shoulder up on the side there and that kind of thing. Um, yeah. Um, so as you're up here, just sort of enjoying this, or just beginning to enjoy this moment here for yourself, and this fresh air. Up, jogging up to you, comes Javin, who Javin is a young Barblish male. I think we've seen him a couple times. I'm thinking of like sort of 15, 16-ish. He's got olive skin. His hair and his fur are black, and one of his legs is red. Um, he's sort
Like,
of
is it red because just that's like a barbalish thing, or is it like an old wound?
it's no, it's his coloring. So Barblish have their legs are like bear legs basically.
Right.
Like as in like the animal bear bear. No, so it's just like his particular coloring thing. So most of his hair is black, and then one of his legs is red hair fur.
Okay.
Um, and he is acting as like a kind of a page squire cabin boy, whatever. He's kind of the run around, the gopher boy, uh for Rickless and this group that he is calling the Correlation Guard. Um, and he comes jogging up to you. He's got a smile on his face. He's got just starting to get the first bits of his antlers in. Um, and his trunk behind his head is sort of like kind of wagging almost, back and forth. He's kind of an excitable little kid. Um, but he comes up to you, and finally when he catches sight of you, he comes riding over, and he's, Lady Iridia, I've been looking all over for someone. we have there's a bit of a situation down in the hangar, and I've been trying to find well, really anyone, but um Captain Mathos and Lady Fawit and I haven't been able to find. I can't even find Richolas and
Hey,
just
just Javin, just stop. Just take me wherever it is you need to go. And I think Iridia is like, fuck, finally something to do. Thank you. What, 30 minutes of silence, and she's already over it. She just needs some distraction.
Um, so he gives you a sort of a quick little nod, and takes you across the top of the deck, and down to what people are referring to as the spiral, which is this huge kind of column that runs down the center of the ship, with this big spiral staircase. Um, I actually just wrote this description. It's really cool. Um, I'll just leave it up on screen here. And so you code traveling down this big spiral staircase. The walls are this same sort of reddish brown stone that the foundation is made of, but the steps are this like really kind of beautiful, like black onyxy stone. Takes you all the way down, like I said, that like sort of 10, 15 floors or whatever, so it's a bit of a hike down, um, and then down into the hangar, which, as I was saying, is basically set up where this is where all the merchants and everybody have set up, and this is they have all this shop, and as soon as you sort of come down into this area, where there's these big sort of like ship bays for these kind of sort of small, almost like yacht-sized ships could fit in here, um, and the merchants have erected these little sort of makeshift stalls and carts and things to sort of sell their buy and sell from the people while they're in New Water Nest here. And already as you approach this area, you can start to hear a little bit of shouting, and Javin kind of points you over to the mouth of these big doors that are open, the bay doors, um, and you see there's the two of the very few members of this correlation guard that are already there, trying to keep a handle on this situation. But there is a group of um, what I think you can tell are people from New Water Nest, in here. Some are sort of shouting things and making a small bit of a ruckus with some of the merchants in here. There's some of them that are shouting to, um, you know, we want to see the captain, blah, blah, blah. And sort of making like I said, sort of a general bit of ruckus. There's nothing that's gotten sort of terribly out of hand yet, but there's definitely some tempers that have risen, and between the New Water Nest people and the merchants. There's some people outside in that kind of refugee camp, where the third shorter people sort of out along this wall here. There's that kind of sprawl of uh, refugees from Third Shoulder that have been set up there. Some of them are sort of starting to crowd in on the outside a little bit to sort of see what's going on and whatnot. Um, so that's the situation you see before you. What do you do?
You said there's two guards, right?
Yeah, there's two. They're clearly sort of over. I mean, this crowd of people here that's pushed in is probably in the area of like 15, 20 people.
Yeah. So I think I approach and I just ask the guards what's going on.
The one is sort of is up there trying to sort of get some hands on people and calm them down, and the other one steps back, um, and I think it's this sort of bigger, uh, barblish man, and there's There's some people that have come in from New Water Nest here that don't seem to be happy with us being here. I've heard shouts of them trying to get us to leave, and uh, it seems it's mostly people that have been made unhappy by our presence and our doings here. We're trying to keep a handle on it, and just as you see that there's like a uh, something that gets like thrown over his head, and he sort of kind of moves back into the crowd of people, and sort of looks back over his shoulder, as he's got his four barbalish arms sort of like trying to wrangle people, and um, uh, he looks back over his shoulder and is like, Any help you can give us would be greatly appreciated."
Yeah, so I think she like tries to weasel her way through the crowd to see, where the conflict is like, starting from. This isn't normally something that Riddy would do, but I think she just wants something to take her mind off of whatever the hell it is.
Yeah. So what's your objective here?
I think he said that some people are angry, right? That
Hmm.
they don't like the way that things are being ran, or what's going on. I think Iridia tries to identify those people, the ones that are like starting the argument. Usually, somebody is trying to spin the crowd up, essentially.
Yeah, good. I think that sounds like a move. Um, that sounds like a discern realities to me.
Okay.
When you closely study a situation or person, roll plus whiz.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just trying to see sort of what's going on here.
Not a strong suit. So let's. Oof.
Beautiful. So that's a
Brain not
5.
working good.
So hey, go ahead and mark that XP.
Yeah. So how
Um,
much for level 5? How much XP should I have right now? Because
so
I have
we
9 marked down.
we just bumped you up to level 5, so you should clear all of that XP. So that'll give you 1
Okay.
towards level 6. Um, great. So you kind of try to weasel your way in here, and it's starting to get kind of heated here. There's merchants, and it's the merchants are trying to protect their little stalls and their merchandise, um, and things like that, and you can see a couple of park pockets, um, as the two guards are trying to do their best to sort of keep a handle on people. um, you start to push into this press a little bit, and you find yourself quickly get uh, kind of carried in, um, and uh, and I I think you get sort of pulled into the middle of this, just as things start to kind of ratchet up a notch, and you can start to hear like that uh, like a mug or something that got thrown over the guard's shoulder. You now start to hear some things like breaking, some things shattering, and um,
Yeah, I think she's like, "Fuck," like this is obviously getting out of hand. Is there like somewhere that she can like stand to get a little bit of height?
sure. I think you could jump on some boxes, or a part of the side of a stall or whatever.
Yeah. So I think she does that. I think she finds a a box of some kind, and climbs up on top of it and tries to look over the crowd.
Great. So what are you? What's your sort of goal here?
You know what? I think she realizes that this is getting out of hand quickly, and she screams at the top of her lungs, um, "People, please!" and like puts her hands in the air, trying to draw attention to herself.
Um, Good. So, I'm gonna call this. This sounds to me, 'cause I don't think this is a parlay yet because you don't have any leverage to exercise. Um,
Right.
this to me feels like a defy danger charisma as you're
Okay.
trying to exercise your.
Yeah. Where's Defy Danger? There it is.
So that should give you a pop up for what stat you want to
There we go.
use. All right, great. So that's an 8. So you stumble, hesitate, or flinch. The GM will offer you a worse outcome, hard bargain, or ugly choice. Um, so so you get up here and you try to get the attention of the crowd. Um, and I think one of the first things that you see as you get up there is you're trying to look over this crowd and like you said before, you're sort of trying to see if you can pinpoint uh who the rabble rousers are, who's trying to whip this crowd up, that kind of thing. And as you're sort of looking over the crowd, um, one person in particular catches your eye, and it is this elderly human woman. And you recognize her as the woman who ran the clothing shop that you went and got your dress fixed from a while ago. Who you uh, you were trying to you and the party were trying to get into this event that was at the communer's palace,
Mm-hmm.
and you went and sort of bribed her with you brought her this nice like cake, and basically tried to kind of butter her up and whatever and try to get this uh, invitation that she had out of her and whatever, which she did for you, but basically at the end of all that, she was clearly rather sort of hurt by all of that and asked you to leave and to not come back. So uh, you um, I think what ends up happening is you catch her eye, um, and it gives you that sort of half moment of hesitation as you sort of realize that it's her, um, and you get uh, toppled off of this box, as a sort of uh, two people down on the side are sort of grappling with each other, and things are getting still out of hand, and you topple off the box and you fall onto the ground. Um, you you hit the ground, and that is kind of what gets people to stop. Um, so I am going to say that you're going to take some damage here from falling off these boxes. Um, what is your oh, we do have your token. So you got 17 total. Um, uh, what what armor do you have?
I
Do you
don't.
have any?
Yeah, I have the apron, but I didn't wear it,
Oh, okay. So you don't have it on.
and it's
Um,
only +2 fire,
oh, against
anyways.
fire. Okay. So you're gonna take 3 damage.
Okay.
So you fall off this, and I think a 3 damage is kind of a half smack in the head here.
Ugh.
It's not the best landing. um, so you're partially dazed, but in doing that, like I said, sort of you falling off of this. I don't know if Iridia lets out like a little bit of a shriek or something, but um, the process of this happening is the thing that sort of like shuts up the crowd for a second, and so you are on the ground, and looking up, and like right on the edge of this little circle of where you are on the ground, you can see there's like two people that are sort of like locked with each other, struggling over some fancy like vase or something that they were trying to pull off of a merchant's cart or whatever. That they stop, and they're both sort of like looking sideways at you, and there's a bunch of other people. There's one of the guards comes sort of pushing into the edge of the circle there, and sees you, um, and uh, and they all stop for that moment. What do you do?
I think you know, being dignified. I think she picks herself, up off the ground and like, you know, brushes herself off, and then kind of like, stands up straight and proper, and she says, now that I have your attention, um, if you have any kind of grievances, then let us not. If you have any grievances with myself, or anyone else here who has been overseeing things, then you're more than welcome to bring them to myself. Um, there's no reason to be angry. I think that we should talk about these things.
And then as you're saying that, there's a Hothenboren that pushes through, on the sort of the opposite side of where the guard is, so from the bay door side, and uh, the Hothenboren is a female human head and a male animal head. Um, but they sort of push through. They're sort of in, not necessarily like grubby clothing, but they've got like some kind of cloth apron on. So they look like they walked out of a kitchen or something, and they look tired. Um, and the the they come up, and the human head says, "No reason to be angry. No reason to be angry. Look at what you've done to this town. Since you all have gotten here, we we've had fights in the street. We've had hordes attacking the next town over. We've had You are taking people out of this town. People we need." And the animal head sort of lets out half a growl and is like, "We our establishment is gone to the birds. You stole our people, and you're leaving this town to waste." And the human woman's, "What do you have to answer to that?" And there's a bunch of people in the back of the crowd who's like, "Yeah!" And there's like one drunk guy back there who's like, "You stole my bird, I think." And then just like shouts of random people, and in agreement.
I think Rydia, I think she backs down a little bit. This creature, even though she doesn't really, yeah, I don't know if it really looks that menacing to her, but it's still like conflict. Is like her immediate instinct is to run, and now it's directed directly at her. Um, I think she just, she like lets out a sigh, and she says, "Yeah, uh, I did not wish this. I did not wish to be here. Um, you know, does everybody know that Iridia and her compatriots are not from Alardan?
No. And that was something, I think it was Lelish,
That's not
um,
to say, right?
that had told you it's probably not a good idea to, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I I didn't want to have your homes destroyed, and I'm sorry if you feel that death and destruction have followed us. And perhaps you're right, but we're in this situation now, and we must make the best of it. We must work together. And if you've had these businesses, this place is enormous. It's as big as Third Shoulder itself. You are more than capable of opening your shops here, and with much better safety. Even before we were here, your town was subjected to raids. Now, if a raid were to come, we can just leave. You have more safety and security here now, but you're right. You know, I have no right to take you from your homes. And if I had the ability to do so, I would put you back there right now. But I cannot. And neither can anybody else um or neither can anybody else in my party. And I'm sorry that this has happened to you. Is what can I do to make you feel better now here in this moment?
This sounds to me like a parlay. So here I think you because basically what you're trying to get here is I mean you're trying to get them to calm down, but I think this thing that you are sort of giving them this offer of some manner of of safety here, that you're leveraging the kind of the power of that this ship represents in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is a 9. They ask you for something, and do it if you make them a promise, but they need concrete assurance of your promise right now. Um, so I think, yeah, I mean this is a great sort of lead up that you've given right at the end here, where you you ask them what you can do. Um, and I think she looks at you for a second, and you can see them starting to calm down. There's still a couple people in there uh, that aren't quite totally swayed, um, but she looks at you and says, "We we are not asking for your protection. Whatever this thing," and she sort of looks up toward the ship, is it it does not put us at ease. This town, this city was safe before you came. Yes, maybe we had our issues, but we now have a treaty with Marshall's Cloak. They will keep us safe. We we do not need whatever ancient horror this is here in our town to give us our sense of security. And there's some people that shout in the back, "Yeah, yeah!" And she says, "You want to know what you can do for me now? You can tell me when you are going to leave."
I don't. I mean, I leave it. I think I have a loose idea of what we're even trying to accomplish, which is just trying to get the fuck out of, you know, Alarden. What I don't even know what to, like. I don't think Iridia knows. I don't think she has any clue about um when they're gonna leave.
Yeah, I think that's true. I don't think she does. So I mean, so basically, what she's giving you here is they'll they'll back off.
So are we over? Like, are we just like hovering above Third
No,
Shoulder already?
you're landed here next to New Water Nest.
New Water Nest. Okay. And these guys are from Third Shoulder, though, right?
No, these are New Water Nest people.
Okay. And so they just don't want us in the vicinity of New Water Nest, right?
Basically, yeah.
Um, like, what is keeping us here right now? Or do we just provisioning?
There's some provisioning going on. Basically the the there's some people that are out doing missions, kind of for like Bracken Orn are out doing a mission for Lelish. At this exact point in time, um, Zahida, we haven't done this yet, but Zahida is off, doing a thing, um, and there's a situation that Fawit and Mathos are trying to sort of deal with this prisoner that they've captured who's from New Water Nest, and so that there are things kind of tying you to the area, um, but the kind of the general feeling and direction, there hasn't been a big sort of like company meeting yet to
Right.
sort of figure out what your next steps are, but the general feeling around the ship is that you guys are looking to sort of bolster the numbers, and you have the threat of the Ebon Armada, the Sky Pirate people, and there's also the kind of the cartographers that are, some of them are out and about. So you have those kind of threats on the horizon, um, and are looking to eventually get to the point where you can deal with those. But you're a handful of people on this giant ship right now, at nowhere near at any kind of capacity. So I think in general you guys are sort of looking to build your forces to bump up that galactic readiness number, um, and make your allies and all that. But yeah,
Um,
I think in the immediate situation here, you are kind of confronted with this thing where they will leave, and leave this situation as it is, but
they just need an assurance
they
that
are
we
looking
will
at
be
an
leaving.
assurance that you guys are gonna be out of here.
I just look at him and I say, when my friends return, and they will be within a matter of well, I don't know what would be a good guess, maybe a couple days.
Days, yeah.
Um, we will leave New Water's Nest.
Um, and I think the human head gives a little nod, and the animal head gives you another sort of little grunt and says, "Days, days you have, and then I want this ship gone." And then some more people from the crowd are like, "Yeah, get out of here!" And then they all sort of mill out, and you get another sort of look from the dressmaker, on the way out. This just sad and angry and hurt and frustrated and whatever, and but they
Did
all.
New Water's Nest get attacked as well?
No, they did not. There was a bunch of stuff that they were dealing with, like spies and infiltrators from the Armada. I mean, there was the group of the Armada spies that were sort of like trying to escape, and there was like a bit of a battle that happened. That was, I think, just after you left. Um, uh, so that to a smaller scale, but they not attacked like Third Shoulder did. So,
Hmm.
but they kind of mill out, and some of the merchants are, uh, you know, shaking their fist at people as they leave and trying to gather back up their things. And there's a couple people who are just like trying to do their shopping. Got stuck in the middle of all this. The two guards are whatever, and I think you see you see Javin back behind you, who's sort of like stayed in the background of that thing, um, and he's like giving you this kind of like a little bit odd look. She like saw you turn away this crowd, um, and whatever, and and that's it here. You have averted this potential crisis. Um, so what do you do now?
Um, yeah. So his was named Javin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is he still around?
Yep.
I just I look at him and I say, are you at ease now?
And he says, "That that was amazing. You just stood up and turned away a whole crowd. That could have gotten bad." I
Uh, she like leans in a little bit and she says, "It still could," and then kind of walks away.
yeah. Uh so as you make your way back up, I think there's you're making your way back up the. I mean, if this is what you're doing, I guess I shouldn't be assuming. Making your way back up the staircase. Um, there's so on the way up this staircase, there's a bunch of doorways, sort of open doorways that go into other parts of the ship. Most of the vast majority of which are unexplored at this point. Um, but one of the doorways, as you're on your way back up, you hear uh, this this very faint but sort of odd noise that comes out of the doorway, um, and as you sort of pause as you're walking up the steps, there's this bit of kind of wind, not quite as strong as a wind, but there's a sort of a sort of a rush of air that comes out of this doorway, this hallway. You don't know what's in there. That's not an area that you know anything about, um, and you feel this very faint, almost like sort of fingers, uh, sort of grabbing, brushing uh, at your face. It's very faint, and I think it's probably really easy to pass off as, uh, you know, uh, falling and hitting your head. um, but is there what's your reaction to that? And just as quick as that happened, it's gone, and you can stare down that hallway, and there's nothing there.
Yeah, I think she like stumbles a little bit and like catches herself against the wall. Um, who's like the closest like medical knowledge? Would it be Brack?
Brack, yes, but he's not here.
Okay, well I wouldn't. I think she would just be like, no, I can't talk to him. Um, uh, I think she would. I think she would just shrug it off. Honestly,
Mm,
I think she would just take a moment and like kind of catch herself, and then just kind of like carry on and just continually walk about the ship. Just try to, like I don't think she's like really taking the time to like figure out where everything is right now.
hmm
And so, the only place that she does not go is or the only two places she doesn't go is the blacksmith, and then her room. I think she just tries to stay away from those two places.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think she's wearing like, and I probably should have mentioned this. She's wearing the dress that lady like sewed up for her.
Oh,
That
she was wearing the dress. Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, you can imagine the poignancy of that
That's
moment then.
yeah. I think that's probably she probably didn't even realize like why the fuck is this lady like why is she eyeing me like I know who she is, but why is she eyeing me and then she like like God, like of course I'm wearing the very same dress, and it's just got like a slap in the face. So
Yeah, so I think the rest of the day kind of passes without much. I mean, you sort of go back to that kind of slump. I'm sure at some point you head up to the big galley, the big sort of like great hall that's this galley area. Um, get something to eat and whatnot. But otherwise the day passes without much ado. Um, and by the end of the night, what's what time sort of what time do you think, and what's your kind of state when you eventually make it back to your room or wherever you're gonna be going to sleep?
Um, so one thing I think she notices is that her hand, her right hand, is like going numb by the end of the day. And so she's like constantly, like when she gets back, she just, I think she's rubbing her hand and like just feels like she can't feel it, and but she's like, that's just weird. And then the other thing is that she just feels like weak and like tired. Um, and some of it may have been that she's like really only been to the blacksmith shop and to her room and back to the blacksmith shop, and catching meals there. So she kind of chalks it up as that. But the thing that really bothers her the most is that she can feel like the numbness in her hand. And combined it with the episode she had in the hallway, I think she's starting to realize that something is amiss. Um, and I think she gets back to the room, begins to think about that, and then decides that she better not. And then she walks over to, like exhausted, she walks over to the dresser, and once again grabs the empty pitcher of wine, and goes to pour it into a glass, and immediately puts it back down and grabs the remaining pitcher of water, and fills her glass up, and then she drinks it. And I think she sits down at her desk and opens a book to, like what she would normally do, and begins reading.
So some you get your reading into this book, and you you start it's hard to tell if you had been like dozing off or something, or you know how sometimes you get that weird blend of like a dream into reality when you're sort of like half falling asleep. I was like, Matt, you ever have that where like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, where it's like you you're probably falling asleep, and something like happens in like a dream or something, but your brain is registering it as is happening in real life or whatever. You're sort of in that kind of a state, and you hear your name called out.
Okay, I think that probably takes her out of that state. Like, you know what I mean? Or,
Hmm.
or maybe not. But yeah, I think whatever state she's in, she's at least a little bit more heightened after that.
Yeah, and you sit there for a moment, like trying to sort of hear if someone was knocking at your door, if you hear someone was out in the hallway. You don't hear anything, um, until you hear it again. A feminine voice, Iridia.
Okay. I think she freaks out a little bit at this point. I mean, is she fully? Does she at least feel like she's fully coherent at this moment?
Yes.
Does it, like, is it coming from, like a window perhaps? I don't know. Does she have like a portcullis to the outside in this room?
Probably. I think you probably have some nice balcony or
Right. One of.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um.
So she probably like goes towards that immediately.
Mhm. Um. And a little while later, you you go out to the balcony. You don't hear anything. and then you start walking back in, and then you hear it from the inside again. Iridia!
Okay. I think she like spins around and is like, "Who's there? Show yourself."
And there's nothing there.
Um, I think she instinctively, like um probably grabs something heavy, like at
Hmm.
this point, and like shakingly kind of like moves about the room. I think she goes to the hallway next and like opens the door and looks down at the hallway leading up to her room.
Yeah. So you you can kind of hear basically you start following the trail. It's this weird thing where it sounds it doesn't sound like it's far away, right? Like, but every time you sort of follow it, you go somewhere and it sounds, you know, the same distance away, further in the direction that you're following it. Um, so it's hard to sort of pin down the source. There's a couple times as you're following this voice that the the voice gets sort of distorted a little bit, um, in this very kind of strange way, almost like if it's sort of uh, partly submerged, and just kind of like getting cut up a little bit. Um, there's moments where uh, it's it's a lot longer between the calls. Um, but if you do keep following this voice, the voice is leading you down into um, a section of Foundation. Do you follow?
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, I think she probably grabs like a torch or something, some sort of maybe a candle, probably a candle from her bedroom before she like ventures out.
do you what are your animancy elements? Because this could just be a simple. Where are you? You are flesh and thought. Okay. I mean, sense would be the one that would be something where you can make a little light or something. Um, so how do you have you done? I guess you said you haven't really done much sort of poking around the ship yet, have you? Or wandering
Uh,
around?
I think I was the one who discovered the blacksmith shop.
Yes,
Um,
that's true.
that's probably the last thing she did. She probably found what she wanted there, and then was like, "That's my project," and
I'm
kind of
done.
moved. Yeah.
So you get led down into these areas of Foundation, and um, it's I mean, obviously, the deeper you go, it's dark down here. I think I mean, it's nighttime at this point, so it's dark outside, and especially not being having been in this area, it's pretty unnerving in here. There's I think there seems to be a more concentrated intensity of this sort of bizarre stratification effect that's happening with these like almost stripes of areas that are this like perfectly pristine, um, with other stripes of areas that are just like massively decayed and like chunks falling out of the wall, and like piles of dust and rubble and whatever. And as you sort of keep following this voice deeper and deeper, um, it's not long till you are pretty sure that you are lost, and it's like you you make turns in the hallways that you think should kind of bring you in a circle, but you don't recognize any areas. Again, there's no sort of like repeat of areas or anything that you can tell. Um, and you've heard people, I think, talk about the way that this area of the ship people swear it, like, the hallways change and things aren't where they expect them to be when they're sort of down here exploring or whatever. Um, uh, but there's you get down into this further into this area and you hear this voice again, um, and then just after uh, this call of this voice, you hear a louder version of that noise you heard out of the doorway, which I think is this uh, sort of ragged, uh, kind of sighing sound, with a little bit of like clicking in it as well. Um, and you hear it ahead of you, and as you round a corner, um, like 40 feet down the next hallway, um, you can see uh, a figure.
No, I
Um,
think that scares the fucking shit out of her.
and
She's like, ah, who is that? You know?
and this figure is it's you I mean you can't get a good look at it because you've got your torch or your candle or whatever, um uh and you're only casting so much light, but you mostly get this kind of shadowy silhouette. But even in this silhouette, you feel like there's some kind of like uh e- ebb and flow to the shape of the silhouette, just a little bit. um and then as you're looking at this, you hear again, Iridia, uh
Is it coming from the silhouette?
but off to the side down a different hallway.
Oh Jesus.
You look over down to where that voice is coming from, and you look back, and the figure is gone.
Um. Uh, I don't fucking know. Yeah, I think she goes after the voice.
Okay.
She like takes a moment, like processing, like, do I just back out of here and get away? And she's like, I think she thinks to herself, if this thing meant me harm, I'd be dead already. And I think she's just in her nightgown at this point. And um, and she presses on.
So you keep making your way down this hallway, following the voice. And at the end of this hallway, um, you sort of walk out into this cross section. There's like a sort of a circular um, area where a handful of hallways meet, but not in like a perfect like cross angle. There's like uh, you know they're kind of at janky angles. There's like four well, it's five paths off in different directions, right? Um, uh, and you get to this juncture, and there's you sort of stop to pause to see if you can hear this voice again, um, and it's a moment, and you're standing there in this silence, um, and I think you get this half moment of uh, realization of how, like, how thick the air feels down here. Like it's getting kind of warm and stale. Um, and you're trying to look down these hallways, and like holding up your candle to try and see what you can see. There's one of the hallways looks to go to this sort of open room area, um, and then uh, you stop for a second and start to hear this call again. And just as it starts from one of the hallways, uh, it's almost like half interrupted. It gets sort of distorted a little bit, as this sort of ragged breath noise comes in from this other hallway, and you see this figure moving quickly towards you. What do you do?
Does it feel hostile?
Yes.
Um. All right. Well, maybe it's gonna have to be animancy. Um. I took flesh and thought, right?
Correct.
Where's that? I need to go look at the animancy guide.
So basically, there's two things you can do with animancy move wise. There's the first cast a spell move, which is using animancy to help solve a problem. So basically, something that's not damage related. And then there's the second one, which is doing damage. Um,
I, I think, yeah. If I perceive this as a hostile threat, I think she goes immediately on the offensive,
okay.
and I think she tries to, um, like I can change, like, can I change like it says appearance elasticity change and surface level.
Hmm.
Um, I think I want to like use the ground. I want to like try to like put my hand on the ground and see if I can't, you know, try to like cause like some sort of like shockwave in that general direction of that creature.
Sure. Um, so that's so you're doing so you want to do this with flesh? Is that what you're saying? Element wise?
Um, yes,
Okay.
yes, I think the flesh.
Good. Yeah. So when you perform an animatic spell, deal direct damage. Choose the element you wish to use, and then two tags from that element's list. If tags marked innate, blah blah blah. Describe what you do and roll int. So if you look down to the tag section under flesh, you can use reach, concealed, evasion, um, or or +1 forward to parlay. So reach is a range tag. If you don't use range tags, it defaults to hand. Um, so reach,
Yeah, reach is
uh,
the first one for
yeah,
sure.
okay. So that's so reach is for attacking something that's several feet away, maybe as far as 10. So this is as this thing. This is getting basically getting a thing off of it as it's still closing in before it reaches you.
And I can only use flesh, correct?
Correct. I mean, you can use flesh or you can use uh
Ah,
thought. You can't
but I didn't
use
know if I
mix and
could
match.
use.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So I'm gonna use. Is it? Can I? Like, I don't think I need. Do I need to have multiple tags, or can I just say I just want to use reach in this instance?
You can choose up to two.
Okay, so
I
on this one,
mean,
I think I'm just gonna. I don't know if evasion or concealed are really applicable to this. I mean, maybe evasion as far as like using this as like an ability to get myself put this like um creating like this fissure in the ground or whatever, um as like a way to like distance myself between me and the other
mhm.
whatever this fucking creature is.
Yeah.
So
So evasion says the target is unable to pin down the casters. They are not drawn into melee with each other. So yeah, that's giving you the positioning to not be in like direct hand to hand range basically of each
right,
other. Yeah, so reach and evasion. So
yeah,
go ahead and roll that plus int, and your int is good
uh,
stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
All right, so that's an 11.
Yeah.
On a 10 plus, the spell certainly helps, but choose one. Your spell won't last long. Affects much more or much less than you wanted. Has unforeseen side effects and draw unwanted attention. The casting saps your energy and weakens your link to your soul beast. Take -1 ongoing to int. Until you have a few minutes to clear your head. So yeah, so on a 10 plus, you only choose one of those things.
I'm gonna say I uh I'm gonna say the second one. Your spell affects either much more or much less than you wanted it to.
Okay,
Well, you know
interesting.
what? No, I'm gonna back out on that. I want it to be because I think this is like she's just like fuck this. I want out of here now.
Mm,
Um, it won't last long. You'll need to hurry to take advantage of it.
okay, okay. Great. So you're looking to kind of uh, mess with the kind of the surface level of the ground and stuff here. Is that what you're sort of saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the like kind of what flesh can manipulate is essentially like I like slam my hand onto the ground and like the stone floor because we're in the foundation, right, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is made of complete stone.
Yep.
It like you know creates kind of like a jet of rock just comes like spiraling out at it, and making it hard for it to move, and I think probably like cutting off whatever trajectory it had.
Yeah. So go ahead and um, roll. Um,
It says 1d8.
Wait, 1d8. Am I? Do we have a different?
That's also my damage too.
Doo, doo, doo. Oh, sorry. This is that's the okay. Sorry, that was the wrong animancy output. So on a with the casting with the damage one, just
Oh, right. Yeah, I see
on a
what
hit
you mean.
deal 1d8. And then 7 to 9 you have to choose one. So forget that. So do your damage. Roll that 1d8.
Okay, I see what I need to put in. I need to put in two different animancy things, like moves.
Yeah. There should be
Um,
two separate ones.
okay. Yep. There we go. Ugh.
All right, that's 3. Um, okay, so as this thing starts getting close to you, yeah, I think this thing that you're doing, it's almost like you're sort of like rippling the uh like the skin off the ground. It's like as if you're taking like a rug and just like flapping it. You know what I mean? So there's like that layer of skin or whatever that's sort of rippling out from where you touch, and part of that ripple sort of like pushes you um, over to the side, as it's kind of uh, sort of moving in towards you, um, and the this ripple that runs towards this figure, um, sort of yeah, like that carpet, like you're saying, sort of kind of juts of rock or whatever. It's like the end of the carpet just like frays into a bunch of pieces and just sort of like whips uh, at this thing, um, and slashes through it, um, and the uh, as it gets closer, the you get a better look at it. And if you thought you were frightened by the fact that there was this figure, um, as it gets closer and you get a look at it, you realize that it is some kind of twisted, sort of half spectral, half uh, decayed version of you.
Ooh. Like, wait, like, is does it look like one of the other Iridias that I've seen already?
No, it looks like you.
Okay. Like me, not one of the other copies.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
In
Okay.
fact, what were you wearing when you were walking back up the steps? You had the
Back up.
dress. You had the dress on, right?
You talking about logging up the steps after I dealt with the crowd?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I had that. Like, I would say it's probably like a bright red and like gold trimmed dress.
So it's wearing sort of this weird version of that dress. This it's I'm almost kind of thinking of that really wild effect they used on uh, the Army of the Dead, in Lord of the Rings, where it's like this constant shifting back and forth between like this sort of more flesh-like and sort of more spectral thing. And you can see that as it was sort of moving towards you, that it had become a little more solid in preparation for trying to strike at you, and that's how and your attack hit it that way. But then as it sort of like scoots out into the center of this circular sort of hallway area, you can see it sort of fade back into a little bit more of a spectral nature. Very sort of like uh, yeah, that kind of thing with the Army of the Dead, but I think definitely much more in these sort of like shadowy kind of like blacks and grays.
Sure. Okay.
Um,
Um. Okay.
so so yeah, so you've done that, and it it sort of scoots out into the middle of this room, um, and looks back at you and sort of uh, puffs out and disappears.
Okay.
It's sort of like as if part of it, parts of it are just sort of like carried off um, into smoke. And you are here in this hallway by yourself. I think at this point your candle's probably on the floor.
Yeah. Right. It's probably shit. It might even be out at this point. But I hope not. Yeah. Probably like I'm like, oh fuck. Like, hope, please don't go out. Um. Yeah. I think she like takes a moment, like probably breathing heavily. Like I think it takes a lot of energy to like cast anything, and so she's like probably left there like in terror, like panting, and then she like kind of thinks to herself like, um, like Ellie from Jurassic Park. She's just like like in her own head, she's like run, run, run now, and like she just like books it, tries to go back the same way she came.
um, yeah, and so as you start running, you see what was your soul beast is an owl, right?
Yeah.
Um, so what do owl eyes look like? They're just like big and circular, aren't they?
Yeah, they're like they're creepy as hell, is what they are.
um,
Um, but they're yeah, it's like kind of like a golden yellow, and with like depending on what the um like I think it's like a barn owl or whatever is
yeah.
what I chose, and so they have like a golden like outer oh shit, not iris, the white part in like your eye or whatever, and because they don't have like that white space, they have
Right,
like
it's all
just
yellow,
the
right?
iris, and then like the this huge black center to like absorb as much light as possible, and it's probably monstrous with like a very thin yellow ring around it because it's so dark down here.
Yeah, so as you start running that, because when you use animancy, your eyes turn to those of your
Oh,
soul
that's
beast.
cool.
So your eyes sort of turn into that owl for a second, and so as you start running and that fades from your eyes, I think you realize. That for that split second that you were doing that animation, you could probably see a lot better in the dark here, because you
Yeah,
had
probably.
that sort of owl vision, and so as you're starting to run here, yet that vision sort of starts fading back, um, uh, and so you start running back the opposite direction, basically. You said,
Yeah, yeah. I will even think about that. I mean, can I use because flesh is like relating to. I guess it's just really mostly appearance.
sure.
Uh, yeah. So I guess that's probably not like giving me the ability to like see or whatever. Um, yeah. So I think she concentrates on like trying to remember like I turned left, I turned right here. Because it's like a maze down here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and then like I think she also thinks like whatever like she just doesn't want to hear her name called again. Like it's like the like that's like an almost. I mean, it's really a realistic fear, I guess, but it's almost like almost an unrealistic fear. Like, how could I be afraid of my name being called out? But like that is terrifying to her now.
Mm. Yeah. So I think as you start running, you so I think this is a role here because you're trying to remember your way back out. Um, so I'm open for arguments here as to whether this is with quick thinking, which is int, or through mental fortitude, which is wisdom.
I think because of the situation, it would be quick thinking. I don't
Hmm.
have that one on my list of things. Is that like a
So that's
normal?
defy danger, int.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. So I think it's going to be quick thinking. Um, is what's going to happen. Oh hell yeah.
Beautiful. Um, so you yeah. So there's a funny thing that happens here. I think as you start running, you can start to hear echoes of um, that sort of ragged breathing that's coming from this creature.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're sort of running to find your way down the hallway, you find a spot where you think you remember where you are, but it's this weird thing where it's like you find a spot that you remember what it looks like, but it's way like further back than you think it should be. Like
Mm-hmm.
you you find a spot that's like 5 turns back, or 5 turns ahead of where you think it is, um,
Mm-hmm.
and you can definitely hear the directionality of this ragged breathing behind you, and
Okay.
then as you're um, as you're staying ahead of that, you hear very distinctly this name or this voice calling out your name. And there is a especially with this 12, there is a very distinct realization that you have. Um, One, I think there's a little bit more um, sort of earnest desperation in the voice. Um, and you also realize that the voice, uh, as you're getting sort of closer to what you feel like the source of it is here, um, sounds like your voice. But uh, in this instance of this voice calling out your name, you can hear uh, one little hitch in this voice, in a way uh, that you are able to recognize that it sounds like your voice, but this is the voice of one of the Iridias, one of the other Iridias.
Okay.
And
Um,
this is coming from sort of down a side hallway at this point.
like the one that's asking. for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not coming from the creature that
Not from the
looks like
creature.
me.
Yeah. So you get this very distinct thing. This very distinct. Uh, realization that one, these are two separate things. Because you can very clearly hear the creature behind you, and this voice to the left. Um, and you also, you saw this creature as some weird version of you, and this
A
voice,
third me, yeah,
this
is
this voice is in that exact moment you can identify as one of the other Iridias.
okay. I think she gets now that she's realized that this other voice is another version of her. I think she gets a renewed amount of confidence. For some reason, even though they're completely separate beings, Iridia is not jealous of this other Iridia. In fact, I think because of the way Iridia is, she pities them much like um, she sees herself as something that deserves, you know, almost like disdain and pity itself. And so it's almost like a wounded animal, before even this. And so she like gaining courage, instead of like her immediate intention is no longer to escape this place, but now that there's like a perceived um you know like creature, or a perceived like victim, I guess, she immediately darts in the direction of where that voice is coming from.
Mm. Yeah, and as you're running, you're able to sort of, I'll kind of keep the thing of this roll going for you here. Um, you're able to keep ahead of that, uh, the creature basically. And as you get closer and closer, you hear the voice calling out, and it starts to be, uh, you know, get a little bit more frequent, and you can definitely hear now. It's um, that distinct, uh, kind of tone in the voice, or maybe it's like a little hint of an accent. I don't know. Do you remember how long you spent with the other Iridias back at the tower? Did you did you spend enough time that you would have gotten to kind of know any of them a little bit?
I don't know if I would have gotten to know them, but Riddy was also pretty drunk at that point.
I think, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, and so um, I don't think she really got to know many of them, but I think she probably enough to be able to like distinguish between the Iridias.
Yeah. So I think as you get closer and closer, you can hear, that very slight but just noticeable tinge of a little bit more of, a kind of a Crivendeer, um, accent ish in the
Okay.
inflection of the voice. So it's uh, like a little flatter, I think, and a little more matter of fact. But it's the voice that you recognize as yours, but like I said, just that little bit of more kind of Crivendeer to it, than you picked up, when you were just there for your short time at the university or whatever. So eventually you keep following this voice, and you see ahead of you uh, into a doorway, and through this doorway, um, through the little light that you have, you can see, uh, just as this voice calls out, one time, you can see this tiny little, sort of, uh, I think burst is too strong of a word, but, sort of pulse of light, from something that looks like it's, over on the floor or something. It's very faint, but you can kind of connect it to, the voice that's coming out, basically. Um, and uh, yeah, so you have this room ahead of you, um, and the the creature, noises, I think, start to fade behind you as you get closer to this room. Um, what do you do?
I press on and try to get right next to it, and see what this like burst of light is coming from.
Yeah. So as you go into this room, there's just enough of a change in the air here as you kind of cross this threshold. Um, it's it's subtle, and I mean maybe in your state that you're in, you don't necessarily notice it all that clearly. But this room is big for one. Um, it's basically impossible to tell how big just from your little candle right here. But you walk into this room and there are some piles of rubble um, and whatever there looks like they're some kind of like columns that have collapsed or something. There's like this big hunk of something on the floor to your left as you walk in that looks like some kind of like statue fell over or something like that. Um, and you walk towards the inner part of this big room, um, and there's what looks like um, the roots of a tree, a huge tree. Um, you know how in trees that grow in like the rainforest, where the root structure is the top, like the top of the root structure is visible, basically, so you can see the first uh, pieces of the roots going down, and so you can kind of like see underneath of the tree.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's that kind of thing where you can see these visible roots that sort of reach out and down into the stone of this floor, and the trunk of this tree goes up, and as you get closer, you can see that it's in the middle of this sort of very wide but kind of shallow basin shape, and over sort of rolled up next to one of these roots is this small sphere, and as you get closer to it, you hear that voice again sort of starts to come out of it, and then kind of gets uh, that distortion again, and then the latter half of the word just kind of fades, and you can see the light uh, sort of start to pulse and then fade uh, and die out. And you wait, you know, you wait there for a second, um, and even as they had been coming more frequently, you don't hear this voice again. What do you do?
Hmm. I think you know, okay, so I think I like try to inspect the tree and see if there's anything that I can, you know, anything extra that I can discern from
Hmm.
it. You know, try to figure out if there's like if this like if I was led here for a specific reason.
Yeah. Um, give me a discern realities. Nice. So that's a 10. Ask the GM 3 questions from the list below. Take +1 forward when acting on the answers. Um, so you can give me like all these at once or one at a time and see what you get from the information. But what?
Yeah. What should I be on the lookout for?
Um, I think this is a sort of a two-part thing. So there's uh, there's a sense of calm, I think, in this room that you didn't get while you were out in the hallways. I mean, maybe it's just the fact that you feel a little safer from this creature, because that has kind of faded back, and faded out, and you don't hear any of the noises from that anymore. Um, so there's a sense that there's not uh, you don't feel like there's danger to be looked out for here. Um, it's more uh, a sense of curiosity and a sense of mystery, um, but in the good way. So like you don't know what to expect from this room necessarily, um, but it's the sort of the sense, I think, that you get from this room is much more of uh, a a calm sense that you feel like um, you don't have any danger to be on the lookout for. Um, what are your other questions?
Um, what here is useful or valuable to me?
Um, okay, so a couple things. So the first thing that you notice as you're looking around, um, is looking at that little sphere. When you get close to it and sort of have some light that you can shine on it, um, you I think you can recognize this very easily, especially since you were the one uh, that handled it the most, I think, back in the temples. It is uh, almost identical to that spherical relic,
Oh,
that you
Jesus.
used back in the temples
That
of the
created
of the
the.
Kangaskhan's cartographers. Yeah, that helped you defeat the cartographers that you sort of put into that weird like inverted fountain thing,
Hmm.
and that created all those weird time copies. And yeah, it's this sphere that is sort of looks part organic, part mechanical, part mystical. Um, it's pieces of it are made out of stone and wood, and you can see little like gears and things inside of it. But this one is, as it stands currently, it is unpowered, I'll say. um, and as you start looking around more and more, I think there's a thing as when you trigger that memory, you can start to see similarities between uh, that room in the temples, um, and this one. It's different because there's this tree here. Obviously, there was not one there, but in that room with that like weird inverted fountain where this water, this green sort of viscous liquidy water was sort of gathering and rising upward in a column. Uh, it was going up towards that big sort of like orrery thing, right, where there's those sort of orbs floating around and spinning around wet snow. Um, there's a sense to, as you look up towards the upper parts of this tree, um, you get sort of weird glimpses of similarity between the canopy of this tree, and the way that um, orrery, planetarium, whatever thing, was kind of organized.
Hmm.
So you get very much of the same kind of vibe, basically, uh, from the two of these rooms compared to each other.
So I think I n- I have a feeling. I think the next thing. Well, let me ask my last question.
Hmm.
Um, um, what happened here recently? I think this was really discerning. What I would like to figure out
Uh huh.
is how the fuck did I hear one of the other Iridias calling my name in a place that resembles much like the place they are currently at?
Yeah.
And so I think the first thing that really kind of comes to Iridia's mind is that there is a connection here with that other place, but it is broken or it's fizzling. And there's a possibility that one of the other Iridias is like knows or maybe theorizes that she can contact, or maybe this has become a conduit of some sort that allows them to like at least attempt to make a like communication with me.
Hmm. This is a weird question. Do you think Iridia has any habit of thinking out loud?
Well, that my next thing was after I was done with the questions is that she was going to now call out Iridia, almost it's in the same tone that was called out.
Okay, cool. So, um, yeah. So your question was, what happened here recently?
Hmm.
Um, so looking around and looking at things like you see layers of dust and all this thing, and you can't help but get the sense that in thinking of what trying to find what happened here recently, that the answer to that is kind of nothing. Like in a very long time. Um, and I think as you're sort of wandering around a little bit, um, you hear another voice. And this voice, I don't want to say it sounds mechanical, but there is some kind of uh, artificial nature to it. It doesn't, there's something about it that doesn't sound perfectly and completely organic. Um, I'm not exactly sure what that means. Uh,
Sure. I think I'm following though.
but this voice you hear, uh, coming from elsewhere in this room, towards actually towards the door, but not through the door, but towards the door. Um, but this voice you hear says, "They are calling to you."
Like a ringtone. I mean, I think she pauses for a moment, and she just audibly, who's calling?
You are calling.
I think Iridia at this realizes that her theory could possibly be correct.
And as you're looking around trying to find where this voice is coming from, what you thought was a giant toppled statue uh, begins to move.
Oh, she probably freaks out immediately and takes like 10 steps back.
And as the sort of the shape of this thing is kind of making itself clear to you, um, uh, this voice uh, uh, you know sounds again. You have nothing to fear. And you see this shape turn around. It's mostly made of stone. But as it moves, you can see some metal bits to it as well, that look almost kind of grafted in some manner. Um, but it is a rather large. Um, I think the easiest way to describe it is somewhere across between like a large like a very large lizard, I guess, and like sort of like an armadillo almost, but it has that uh uh sort of arched
Hmm.
shape to the back of it. But it's got, you can see this long tail, you can see this sort of like snout like face. There's those bits of it, as start to see more of it, um, that are uh, pieces of it are sort of, yeah, sort of more of these metal kind of pieces to it, and some sort of wood bits sort of like growing around, and as it sort of starts to shuffle um, up and sort of slowly kind of shake off some of the dust, um, you see at the end of its tail uh, this this really uh, pure green light start to emanate from the end of its tail, and it sort of casts uh, this light, this green light through the room, and you can see uh, how big this room is as it starts to light up, how big this tree is. There's like, it's a mostly circular room, and there's sort of like columns around the outside. Um, but this creature, and when I say big, I mean I'm thinking like the size of a not quite as like tall necessarily as like an elephant, but in that kind of range of size. It starts like shuffling over to you, and you can see uh, it's trying to stretch out a little bit, um, as it's clearly been sitting there for a very long time.
Sorry, you cut
Um,
out. Say that very last part again.
oh, it's clearly been sitting there for a very long time, and so it's trying to sort of stretch out all uh, the kinks and everything, and it sort of shuffles up to you and sort of uh, tilts its head a little bit, like inquisitively, to sort of look you over.
Um, I kind of like tilt my head as well with it, and then I think Iridia cuts the silence with, "Can you can you connect us if they're calling?"
It gives this sort of like thoughtful noise, but there's that same kind of like uh, sort of music to it. But again, this sort of weird, sort of like uh, organic adjacentness, um, and uh, it starts talking again. And as you see it talking, you can see that there's no like mouth moving or anything at all. Um, and as it's closer to you, you can tell that the voice that it's sort of projecting at you, it's basically projecting it straight into your mind. Like this is a um, uh, basically a telepathic communication that it's having with you right now. Um, but it gives this sort of like thoughtful noise and goes, "It is possible, but not
Uh,
in the current state."
it's as I feared. Um, what do I call you?
I am the horizons of infinite correlation.
Oh boy, that's a mouthful.
I am the ship.
Hmm. What do you know? Why you were you created or were you born?
I suspect a little bit of both, but mostly created.
Do you know who created you?
It gives this other sort of more deeply thoughtful sort of noise. Um, and goes, I and this ship, we are of the cartographer's design.
Hmm. Are you? Can anybody control the ship, or do they have to be cartographers?
Control is an interesting word. But no, not cartographers.
Do you have will?
Mm, in a matter, yes, I think that is what you would call it.
Okay. Do you do you want me to put you into a state that you are more awake?
I think the noise that it makes is uh, the uh, so the sort of this noise that it made when it was talking about this cartographers, I think was this sort of deep, um, sort of more thoughtful kind of, you know, tone to it. And here, when you start to mention sort of this awakening, um, you it it gets a little louder, and I think you can start to hear um, more sort of like richness and some like overtones in the sound. Um, and I don't think it says anything. It just sort of kind of has this sort of hum to it, and it nods its head.
Um, I I think I look up. I'm just gonna call it Horizon for now. I think I look up and then I take a seat like Indian, like Indian style, right? And legs crossed. I shouldn't say Indian
In your
style.
nightgown. I don't want to forget that part of this picture.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, who's around at this point? And um, yeah. And so she crosses her legs, and then she kind of lets out like a deep sigh of relief, and she says, "I don't know about you, Horizon, but um, I was used as a tool for many years, even though I didn't want to do the things that I did. But I did them well, and because I did them well, others sought to benefit from my labor. And when I grew tired of it, I didn't have a choice. Um, I don't know if that was your case previously, um, but if I awaken you, if I give you this power, I just want you to know that you are free to do what you wish. And if you do not want to do the whatever I ask of you or anybody else, um, I want to be abundantly clear that you should not act upon those things.
And this creature takes a moment. Um, it's hard to tell whether they are kind of considering this or what, but when they next speak, you um, this this richness that you began to hear before just kind of keeps opening up, and there's this um, even in the sort of artificial nature of the sound of this voice, there's um, there it 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 seems like it becomes, slightly more uh I guess organic as it's speaking. And it goes, I think we are kin, you and I, Iridia, awakener.
Uh, I think she just kind of smiles at this, and then she says, "All right, how do I awaken you then?"
It is not so much I that needs awakening, it is more this room. The power has been lost. I can think of two things. One, the blood of the Toberon, or perhaps the heart of a cartographer would do.
Hmm. I think we have. I mean, the cartographers are still there, right?
Which do you mean?
The cartographers that we like tussled with that created the copies
Um,
at the temple.
yeah, I don't know if we talked about what happened to like the bodies afterwards. Um, uh, but yeah, let's. I mean, I guess you don't have any way of knowing what,
Not this moment. No.
right? What
Yes.
the the
I
the
think that
people
just
there did with
crosses
it, but yeah, sure.
Iridia's mind.
Um, yeah. So you have this information from this creature, uh, that either what it calls the blood of a Toberon or the heart of our or the heart of a cartographer would be able to sort of give uh, this room kind of the power it needs uh, to kind of awaken the rest of the ship. Um, yeah, and that I mean that's basically it. Um, we can I don't know where do you think is there any sort of moments that you see sort of uh coming out of this or after this?
Um, I think Iridia keeps this to herself for now.
Mm,
Um, Mainly because I don't think she really understands um what could happen if the ship were to come alive. And
sure.
I think she leaves there. I think she bids Horizon a farewell and says that she will definitely be back. Um, and and then I think tries to she tries to figure out. I think she tries to figure out what exactly it is actually, I think the first thing she does is she tries to figure out how to get back. I think she goes down, the second line, like, was this all just some BS dream, or did this actually happen?
Yeah, so I think on the way out, I can imagine there being some moment of hesitancy as you're sort of like looking out the door back into the dark hallways where this creature was, um, and I think you can see the this creature sort of turns around, and I think you can sort of get this expression um, of a good deal of like effort, I think. Um, and as you look back out towards um, the hallway looks different than what it did just a moment ago. Um, and it leads to a junction that you remember, uh, a junction that was much closer to the surface than as far as you thought you were down.
Okay.
And so you're able to get out of here pretty easily.
Okay. And so I think she, like, obviously goes back to bed. I don't know if probably like maybe like an hour had transpired. But I think she has issues. I think she, like, lays in bed and was like, firstly she's like trying to process it all, and then she probably starts thinking like, um, like, did this even actually happen? And then like, probably I doubt she even gets any sleep at all, and then wakes up the next day, and the first thing she does is go back there to see if she can find it again.
Hmm. Um. Uh. Yeah. You can.
Okay.
Um.
Um, it's probably an awkward greeting, and
Yeah.
I think she tries to explain it to Horizon, just saying, "Hey, um, I my mind has not been what it's not what it used to be, and sometimes I have the inability to discern what's like true and what's not." Um, but she says, I will be back if you would like company." Um, and then the next thing I think she asks Horizon, um, do does he or she or it have access to knowledge?
um. Access to knowledge. Um. I think. Uh. I
And
think.
what I mean, like, a knowledge about, I mean, if it is the ship,
Mhm.
I think it's got to have, hopefully has some insight into where, um, where it's hidden. Well, sorry, where things are hidden inside the ship.
Oh,
Hopefully.
sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think basically it explains to you that it's hard to do those sorts of things without like full power, basically.
Okay.
Um, uh, but uh, but yes, I think that's a something it would be able to help you with.
Okay. I think the next thing is, if I can come back here, I think she packs up every book that she hasn't read yet, and
Hmm.
she starts spending a lot of her time in that room,
Mm.
studying and like talking to it, to the ship. and like probably bring some torches down and stuff. Um, but once again, doesn't tell anybody.
Yeah, just sort of
Uh,
disappears.
um, do I have any more encounters with whatever the fuck that shadow thing was? That
Um, I think uh you I think with a measure of what this creature the ship is trying to sort of help you get sort of back and forth. Um, it's infrequent, but I think there are sort of rare, especially if you're doing this a lot. There are you you can tell that this shadow creature or whatever is still down here, um,
okay?
basically. But uh, um, so yeah, I think there are like the odd encounter with it, um, but
Like
with
it's waiting for me to like be in a vulnerable position, but
yeah,
can't.
yeah,
Like a wolf, just kind of like pacing around in the
basically,
background.
yep.
Yeah. I ask Ryzen if it knows what the fuck that thing is.
um, I think they explain to you that i- it's hard for them to know for sure, but the sort of the weird magic of the cartographers like sort of pent up in a spot for contained in an area for so long, can do all sorts of weird things,
Gotcha. So it's
basically.
kind of like it's like tainted this basement, this like the foundations of this place.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mark
it's
that
it's
on
it's like they're
potential quests.
what's that?
Is it mark that on the potential
Yeah.
quests? Vanquish this, you know, this apparition.
Yeah, there's like a you know like when you uh this is such a weird example that's coming to my brain right now. Like when you like cook a lot with a certain spice or whatever, the way that like the spice kind of like gets into the walls a little bit, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um it's like that sort of, this magic has gotten into the walls of this place, and just sort of like sat here and rotted for thousands of years. And
Yeah.
it's yeah, and for however it happened, sort of scraps and pieces of those rotted magics have cobbled themselves together into this uh you know this creature with some manner of intent. Cool. So I think we can go ahead and call it there. I am trying to, for the life of me, remember. Hawkeye, if you're still in the chat here, do you remember if we did end of session stuff at the end of any of these interludes? Because I don't. Um, I can never remember. Yeah? Okay, great. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Um, excellent. So let's do end of session stuff. Get you some HP.
Okay.
Um, so at the end of the session, choose one of your bonds. We didn't really do anything with bonds here, so um, once bonds are updated, look at your alignment. If you fulfilled that alignment at least once this section, mark XP. So again, your alignment is that's the
I definitely did that. Diffuse a
oh
tense
yes,
situation.
100%. So take XP for that. Um, then answer these three questions. Did we learn something new and important about the world?
Uh, I would say we learned something about this ship in general that
Yeah,
it's
yeah, I think that's
that's alive.
that's pretty pretty
Yeah.
a thing. Let's go ahead and take that. Did we overcome a notable monster or enemy? Um, you encountered one, but I don't think you overcame it. Um,
No, I ran from it. Yeah.
um, you did do
Evaded it.
you
Yeah.
did do some sweet magic on it though. And did we loot a memorable treasure? I don't think
I
so
don't think
either.
so.
Yeah. So, great. Well, hey, this was fun. Thanks for tuning in. Um, sorry, I missed what you said no to, Hawkeye. Um,
Oh, about did we learn anything about the world? Which is
oh.
like the only thing that we but that's I mean this was pretty cool and very big, I think.
Yes,
I liked it.
it is. I've been waiting to pull this out of the bag here for a little while, and thought you would be a great opportunity to do it with. So, um,
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
great. All right, so we'll be back next time. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and uh, yippee hooray! Okay, bye.